Hi, everybody. Welcome to Davis Up Front from Compass Football. Jason Davis here with you, looking at a couple of the biggest stories in the beautiful game happening right now. Two of the most interesting stories for me, at least. Let's start on this particular program with Austin, Texas, and Austin FC. On Tuesday, Don Garber, the commissioner of Major League Soccer, Steve Adler, the mayor of Austin, Texas, and Anthony Precourt, the new owner of Austin FC, gathered to announce the 27th team in MLS, Austin FC. It's a green badge with a tree on it. It's quite the thing. It's certainly MLS wanting to be in Austin makes some sense. But the way that this all went down, with Anthony Precourt throwing his temper tantrum and trying to steal the Columbus Crew away from Columbus, Ohio, a team that has been there since 1996, one of the original Major League Soccer franchises, doesn't really give you a good taste in the mouth when we're talking about this announcement. Now, as for the plan for Austin, Texas, a 20,000-seat venue planned for McCalla Place, 10 miles north of downtown Austin. Don Garber and Major League Soccer have made a lot of noise about a couple of different things for their expansion franchises. One, local ownership, and two, downtown urban core stadiums. Now, McCalla Place may count as urban core on some level. Anthony Precourt is not local, and 10 miles north of downtown isn't exactly central. This is not necessarily the kind of equation that leads to guaranteed success. Precourt wants to be in Austin. Maybe he'll relocate to Austin in a way he never relocated to Columbus, Ohio. Maybe he'll give this city a chance the way he never gave Columbus a chance. He is immediately the most hated owner in Major League Soccer. He was before this, when the whole Crew saga was unfolding, and he remains that as he moves to Austin. It is not Austin, Texas' fault that Anthony Precourt decided to move an MLS team there, and it's not the fans in Austin's fault that Anthony Precourt is their owner or that he's making them look bad on some level. So we have to draw a line. We have to separate the fans in Austin, the ones who want top-level professional soccer in their town, who are excited to see an MLS team come to Austin, and the ownership group and the leadership of Austin FC and some of the things that are prevalent about this club. If they're going to succeed, it's going to be on Anthony Precourt, and he's got a lot to prove right now as a Major League Soccer owner, as again he decided to try to steal a club and ends up with his team given to him by Major League Soccer, while the Columbus Crew will remain in Ohio with new ownership in the Haslam family and the Edwards family. And what Columbus has got going for it back in Ohio, a local ownership group, at least representation from local business leaders on their ownership group, and a plan for a downtown stadium, something that all comes out of the fruits of this terrible year that nobody really wanted to happen in Columbus, and yet they get to a better place. Now remember that MLS and Precourt were sued by the state of Ohio. That suit is dropped now, obviously with a new ownership group for Columbus and Anthony Precourt out of town. They're content to let it all slide. One of the things on Tuesday that was most talked about around this announcement for Austin FC was the song sheet handed out by the Austin Anthem, a supporters group for Austin FC. A couple of very interesting chants, including a Tom Petty song in there, reference to Matthew McConaughey, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple other ones that are worth noting. Strange to say the least for a lot of us. One of them included the phrase "Vamos el Tree," a reference to Austin FC's chosen emblem, the oak tree, on their badge. And obviously a reference to the Mexican national team, who goes by the nickname El Tri, as in the three colors of the Mexican flag. Puns in chants, not so sure about that. Also not so sure about chanting about a city council vote. One of the chants on this song sheet reads 7-4 and talks about the vote that allows McCalla Place to become the site of a Major League Soccer stadium for Austin FC. We're chatting about city council votes. Now, I've been told that Austin's a weird place and city council things are unique. The process that led to this stadium in Austin is certainly unique and strange and takes forever, and it's worth celebrating. Maybe that's the image that Austin wants to foster in this town. We should mention that with that Austin FC coming into the league as Team 27 in 2021, One of those promised expansion spots is gone. Major League Soccer was going to give out 2 more expansion spots. Of course, Nashville and Cincinnati are coming into the league. We already knew about Inter Miami finally getting off the ground. We think things ready to go in Miami. Now, one of those spots that was going to be left is gone. Sacramento, Detroit, Phoenix, St. Louis. How you feeling today? If you're San Diego and you think maybe you can come back around and figure out another stadium plan, are you going to be left out in the cold? Now, of course, Major League Soccer could expand well past 28 teams, and they probably will, but they've always talked about 28 as a number to at least pause at. And now, if you're one of those other cities, you got to feel a little bitter at Anthony Precourt for pushing his way into an expansion team in Austin. Now, Precourt says it's not an expansion team, by the way. It's something we should talk about. When expansion teams come into Major League Soccer, you hold an expansion draft. You find a way to fill up the roster. You give certain allocation benefits to a new club. I guess Anthony Precourt's Austin FC is going to get all those things, but it's not an expansion club in the sense that Anthony Precourt's not paying the expansion fee. All of that goes back to Columbus and the Haslam family and all of that. Columbus Crew are effectively the expansion franchise. Not sure it matters a whole lot except for the paperwork. And now Austin is here. And here's my suggestion for the Austin FC fans. After the events of Tuesday, after the fun that was had over the song sheet, after talking about Anthony Precourt and the way that he ended up with this team in Austin, Texas, after everything went down in 2018 and the villainy that was on display from that ownership. Lean into your villainy. Lean into your role as the villains of Major League Soccer. There doesn't seem to be a most hated team in Major League Soccer at the moment. Atlanta United's very good and spends a lot of money, but they fill up their stadium and their fans are enthusiastic. It's hard not to like them on some level. You got a Seattle team that, yes, has won a championship in the last couple of years and certainly one of the elite teams of Major League Soccer. And when they entered the league back in 2009, a lot of people chafed at the attitude of Seattle fans who thought they had invented a little bit of something in Seattle and maybe made a step forward for Major League Soccer that nobody else had at that point. The LA Galaxy aren't good enough to hate right now. New York Red Bulls are probably more likable than they've ever been before. So Austin, lean into the villainy. Give MLS that team that everybody can hate. We'll thank you for it. Now let's talk about Marcelo Bielsa here on Davis Up Front. Marcelo Bielsa, the manager of Leeds United, gets caught, or one of his staff members gets caught spying on Derby County training 24 hours ahead of their match. Instead of backing down, claiming he didn't do it, creating some sort of excuse for what was an obvious transgression in the minds of at least the British press, Marcelo Bielsa decided he was going to hold class in Leeds. On Wednesday, Marcelo Bielsa gathered some British press members to Leeds United and held a 70-minute press conference, a lecture, if you will, in which he talked about his actions, sending a staff member to Derby, and what it's all about. He, in fact, took full responsibility for this Spygate incident, said that he's the one that sent the staff member to Derby, that he's done it for every opponent Leeds United has had in the championship this season. And of course, Leeds United is in first place in the championship. So if you put one and one together, it would seem that Marcelo Bielsa and Leeds are getting an advantage from spying on their opponents. And yet, the way Marcelo Bielsa talks about this, it's really hard to believe that he thought he did anything wrong. While he talked about the customs of England and maybe learning a little bit more about the culture, basically what he said was, look, we sent somebody to confirm what we already knew. We have hours and hours of tape. We do analysis. We check on tendencies. We know what to expect before we ever step on the field against an opponent. A couple of choice quotes from Marcelo Bielsa. He said, many people made an opinion on my behavior, many expressing condemning the behavior, saying that it wasn't ethical, that it was immoral, that it was violating or affecting fair play, that it was cheating. This club thought it was obliged to present excuses to Derby County, and I was publicly told that my behavior was not respecting the principles of integrity and honesty, which is the basis of the club. In a few words, I can tell you that we observed all the rivals we played against and we watched all the training sessions of the opponents before we played against them. My goal is to make the investigation easier, and I don't think what I'm saying right now is going to make anything that they are looking for worse. He says he assumes that he's going to be sanctioned for this. He takes full responsibility, but he says, my actions were not illegal. And now this has opened up a can of worms over what is cheating exactly. If you send a staff member to a public training session, or at least a training session that happens within view, of public land, and that's what happened here. The Leeds United staff member had binoculars and was on public land. Who's at fault for that? Is it on Derby County to obscure their training sessions? If you're doing something that's so secretive that you don't want your opponent to know about it, well then take better precautions. Or is Marcelo Bielsa, is he at fault here for maybe not abiding by some gentleman's compact over how to best behave? One of the things that's fantastic about this is that Bielsa has engendered more love than he even had before because of his press conference and because of his admissions. He's an incredibly honest man, and while he has a reputation coming from his stints in several other places where things did not go well, hence the name El Loco, the nickname that he carries with him, Marcelo Bielsa is not a crazy person. He is a football obsessive who has a particular way about him. It's obviously serving Leeds well right now, and after the scare over him maybe resigning because of this Spygate incident, it's good for Leeds that he's staying on the job. Whatever sanctions the Football League passed down, we don't yet know. But Marcelo Bielsa was happy to explain every single one of his methods to the press there in Leeds when responding to these allegations that he was spying. And this is what people love about Marcelo Bielsa. He is simply saying, look, I do all these things because I'm not sure I know enough, because I want to control for every variable so that I can win soccer matches. This is not cheating in the strictest sense. Maybe he gets an advantage out of it. But as we saw, by his exposure of all of his methods, by the transparency that he displayed in front of the English press, Marcelo Bielsa is already ready for these games. He's already assured of his approach against an opponent. It doesn't mean he's going to win every single time. And this is a guy chasing the dragon of certainty. He's only become more of a legend now. And despite the fact that he has a reputation, despite the fact that he has walked off jobs in the past, Marcelo Bielsa is always going to be able to get a job because there are very few people in the world who are like this and are as good at their jobs and understand the game as intimately as Marcelo Bielsa. You can see on the screen that he put up the PowerPoint presentation. Marcelo Bielsa, my man's living in 1994, putting on PowerPoint presentations, dossiers stacked up underneath the screen as he explains exactly what his methods are. There's a story in one of the articles I read about Marcelo Bielsa's response to this. It said back in the 90s when he was coaching at Newell's Old Boys, he was losing games despite all of his preparations, despite all of his methods. And then he went to the team and he said, do you want me to stick with what I'm doing or do you want me to be more conventional? Do you want me to do it the normal way? And the team said, no, we want you to be you. They went on and won the league and went to the Copa Libertadores final in that season. That's who Marcelo Bielsa is, and that's why he is such a beloved figure in the world of football. He's sticking it to everybody in England, and even if you don't mind the English too much, even if you understand a little bit of the reaction here, he's certainly puncturing some of the haughty attitude that comes with this idea that there's unwritten rules that everybody's supposed to follow. If your training sessions are out in the open, if you're Frank Lampard, fix it. That's the response, and that's the story now. Things have flipped on their head, and Marcelo Bielsa has swayed public opinion, as far as I can tell, certainly the media opinion. And the one looking bad in all of this, the one who made a big stink and is now taking some heat for it, Frank Lampard, Derby County. Very interesting times indeed. All right, that's it for Davis Up Front. Thank you very much for watching. Be back next week with more of the most interesting stories in the world of football. See you then.